All officials
effective immediately.
be advised to tighten up security.
Until further notice.
Shut it down.
The unit to cover Route 47 side of the Pentagon.
Somebody advise me of a CP at this time.
Okay.
Thank you for that information. Remain on your feet.
Until further notice.
Too many units on the air.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Too many units.
ladies and gentlemen,
Too many units on the air.
ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
Early in the morning at the crack of dawn. That's just about the time when my rhymes are born. Born from the motherland, broken by the breeder. Back breaking beats, giving birth to the readers. The leaders running raw back, refuse to be the slacker. So you lack the fact to make a nation build civilized. About the wicked pleasure that the suckers won't realize the question at hand. They'll never play the man, you'll get caught in his hand and be a part of the wrong brand. Damn to a motherfucking slave to time. 60-second suckers getting stuck with the rhyme. Doing time is not the process, the builder of the wheel. Strength manifested for the first strike, first skill. Stand like the big black buck of the past. My mind feels the thrash of a sucker nigga's backlash. Yo, bust the beat, down comes the wall. 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 Yo, bust.
For the truth about the World Trade Center attacks, call 911 2003. Oh, let me check this out. 911 2003.
The number you have reached has been changed to a non-published number.
I watched how my fellow New Yorkers jumping to their deaths, how women who hit the pavement and their pregnant bellies burst open and the child came flying out. Sheets of glass cut people in half. The real tragedy of my fellow New Yorkers dying was spun into a faux patriotic excuse to go and bomb little brown people all over the world and enact a plan that was in place way before that incident ever happened. I watched the language of patriotism be hijacked. I watched the multimedia, the corporate-owned media, the same corporate media that bought the presidency, sponsor these acts of terror that we've committed now around the world. And either terrorism is a unilateral truism, in which case its definition must apply in every single instance, or it's all a lie. Several of those men on those planes were on the hit list of well-known international terrorists and were still allowed into the country. We're allowed to take flying lessons. And we're expected to believe as the American public that that was because an information packet wasn't shared between agencies. That's a straw man. If that's not a straw man, I don't know what is.
You're a poet. What role is art, literature, and music playing in this struggle?
Wilfred Owen, who was an English poet in World War I, said that in 1917, all a poet can do today is warn. That's why true poets must be truthful. I think my job is just to tell the truth the way I see it, to absorb life, information, experience, to process it through my worldview, which is constantly changing, try to keep it as malleable as possible, and then to regurgitate what I see. You know, the role of art and music has always been to challenge the way things are and to push it forward into the way things could be. The role, particularly in this day and age, of art and music and poetry ought to be to challenge the matrix that we live in, this set of abstract rules that are arbitrarily forced on us and called reality, and to challenge people to think about their reality in a different way. They're still going to go to the mall, but if I can mess with their trip to the mall so that they never see the shopping mall the same way again, then I've been successful. I don't think it'll be long before putting the truth out there begins to hurt.
You believe they knew?
Yeah. I don't believe. I believe that I know.
There was this like concerted effort to like put people who believe that on the fringe.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you can't have us running around in the mainstream. But when you look at the panel that was set up to investigate the incidents surrounding 9/11 and the lack of cooperation from our current administration, the Bush White House, one can't help but ask what was known. But they knew. I'll go to my grave believing that I know that they knew. It's not a theory. It's provable on a light bright. It's provable with 2 pencils and a piece of paper, half a brain. The facts speak for themselves. All you have to do is be awake enough to acknowledge the facts.
What's your message to all those who care about what happened on 9/11 and are looking for some answers and want to get to the bottom of things and want to see justice done? What's your message to them?
Change is not only possible. I think things are so dire right now, change is imminent. And all we've got to do is be awake when that window of opportunity comes. Because no matter how strong the forces that be, and I don't just mean a literal, physical, tangible manifestation in the form of a man. I mean the spiritual zeitgeist that was unleashed on the planet through that terrible, terrible incident. Change is imminent. It's not just about the human aspects of this. Something is going down on planet Earth right now, and we have a rare opportunity, a rare window that is, if it's not already on us, is coming. And we've got to be alert and awake and aware and present for when that happens. Because if we miss it, there won't be another one.
Bush did it, man. Bush's father did it. But putting a fucking military base in Saudi Arabia. Ain't no question in my mind who did it. That's what that was about. Why do we have a military base in the Holy Land of the Muslims? Get that fucking base out of there and there would have been no 911. That ain't no even an issue in my mind, man. Bush did it. Simple as that. Until we get that base out of there, out of Saudi Arabia, we're going to have shit like this. You know, and then square up the rest of the crap that we're doing with people's lives in Palestine and everything. But number one, the one thing we have to fix is getting out of their lives. Stop fucking with those people's lives, man. Yeah. Stop trying to westernize some people. You know, that's you know, they're seriously since the turn of the century trying to say we have a culture we're trying to protect, and whether it should be protected or not, that's not our business, man. But the more we mess with it, the more defensive and more they're going to start posturing, and it's just and eventually when they run out of ways of expressing themselves, this is how it turns out. Yeah, no, man, I blame old man Bush's father. Yeah. Not even an issue in my mind, man.
I blame the American government. I think they're involved with, you know, so much deceit and you know, they're just all over the world, not only with the Muslims but everywhere, and they just mess with everything, you know. Oh, and you know, and they're just corrupt, you know, and it's gotten to the point where people are taking real drastic measures, and our government probably was involved with it. I agree with Norton. You know, I think that you know, it's really sad that they can't have a full investigation on it, you know, but they're never going to do that. And the people in America are too stupid to see this stuff. You know, it's amazing. And I don't know when they're going to wake up over there, you know.
We probably never had an investigation on any political subject in this country.
Everybody should have clean water, something to eat, roof over their head, the basic necessities of life, you know. Save the earth, save the children, protect the old. You know, there's no respect for the old anymore. You know, all this crazy stuff is going on.
Go get them, Earth, man. Go get them, people. We're going to be up there on stage, man. We'll be up there with Darnell on stage with our fist raised.
This for you, George Bush.
Power to the people.
You feel more secure now that Bush has, you know, gone off to war and
No, wrong thing. Contrary. War is never a good thing, never. What's more important is that an initiative for peace is undertaken, you know, as soon as possible.
What are some, I mean, what in a practical sense? I mean, is there anything...
Afghanistan and Iraq, yeah. The Middle East meaning Israel and Palestine. All these must be dealt with, because what's coming up next is the water crisis that's going to occur. And if the peace is not solved in the Middle East soon, well, the water crisis in the next 10 or 15 years will be the dominant problem, and it will indefinitely lead to wars, because it is a resource, and wars have often been fought on resource levels more than ideology.
Well, let them drink oil.
What do I say to that? Yeah.
I see you like to wear yellow.
The benefits of wearing yellow is that I rarely buy yellow clothing, because people always seem to have a crazy yellow item that they snatched at a sale and never to wear again, so they donate it to me. And I'm never lost in a crowd. I can just go wander off with my friends, and they can always find me, because they just have to ask the person near around, have they seen anybody dressed only in yellow? Well, I think this is right now what we're experiencing in the United States. The world, is experiencing is the last cry of a dying empire. Yeah, and so, you know, those who see that their power is losing are kicking up their heels and screaming and putting up a fight before they go down, and getting everything they can before the ship sinks.
One last point or question. What's your message to the world?
Peace and love and happiness.
Hey Theo, thanks a lot.
Well, yo, 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 yo. Oh, yo, 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 yo. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. My songs will tell of how my political views are on the songs I write and the songs that I've written with a few friends of mine. Darkness surrounds the noonday sunshine. The trees have lost their will to bloom. Valleys slowly die to deserts. Sing
line. Mankind follies have come right back to haunt us. Nature's now a battlefield of time.
You think Bush knew?
Do I think Bush knew? Mm-hmm. I had a feeling that he did know that that was going to happen and done nothing about it. And when the war came, we just saw them protecting the oil. And they saw oil being protected and not the nation rebuilding and things like that. And to me, this was a war most probably for wealth and not the reasons of mass destruction. What happened is Afghanistan, what happened before there, Bin Laden, things like that, and they were looking for him. And I think why such powerful nations like England and America cannot find one man, and they make all these films, and they have such technology. Why do they have to kill so many people? And the man that they want is still alive. And what happened in Iraq was, to me, terrible. So I just sing songs that remind people of that, what happened and how we should handle ourselves. And most probably I have not came across any more than deal with truth and rights. And one day the Father will give me my rewards, and my rewards are not to be held into captivity and things like that. I think there are better rewards in my life than this.
Remember when we took everything for granted? Remember when we thought we had it forever? Remember when we took our families to the seaside, and in the evening we left much more than our footsteps behind. We left much more than our footsteps behind. The song was called Remember When, written by myself and Pet, Luscious Pet.
Great song.
Thank you.
Great song. Great song.
Okay.
And then you take the word homeland. Now, it definitely has a positive ring to it, right? This is my home. This is the land that I call my home. But you could also look at it through a more international filter and see that in South Africa during apartheid, the blacks lived in homelands, which were probably not the most wonderful places to live. So what kind of homeland is America trying to create? Is it a place then that people feel safe when they are enclosed in this environment, but don't feel safe going anywhere else? Isn't that a kind of segregation that's going on? Should Americans be taught that the world out there is against them? Because that does seem to be the trend. And so they are safe in their homeland. It's a scary term.
Mm-hmm. You said one thing earlier that was interesting and disturbing, frightening.
If you take the subway right near my house and you get on it at one end and you travel to the other end, you travel through a lot of different areas of Berlin, you also see a microcosm of life and what kind of people there are. There's the homeless man who smells really bad. There's the drunkard. There's a person begging with their dog. There's a person thin as a stick trying to sell poetry. There are ugly faces, beautiful faces, and often very surprising faces and surprising actions. And I'm never surprised when I get on the subway that I'm going to see somebody interesting, or that you just never know. And that's just a simple subway ride from one end of the city to the other. If you can see all kinds of life there, I don't see why something can't happen anywhere, at any time. You never know who's going to get on or off at the station that you are riding through. And they might have a bomb in their shoe. And that rhymed.
What are you telling people? I mean, what could you say to them to reassure them? Can Amy reassure us now and give us some guidance?
I think it's very important to actively search for information, whether that's through reading or through conversations with people. Communication and the sharing of information and ideas is essential, and even more so today, in a world that seems to be trying to really dumb us down.
Are you optimistic?
There's some great quote by Che Guevara, and he says that optimism is the only realistic way of living. Something similar to that. Yeah, optimism is the only truly realistic way to get through.
George Bush came along and brought a lot of mishap with him. What you think he's gonna do the last year? He got one more year. You know, commit ruckus. Ain't no telling what's gonna happen in the last year. I read somewhere where they might stage another attack somewhere just to keep the momentum going, keep the war machine happening. Excuse me while I exercise my appetite.
Okay, it's okay.
Pasta's good. Hey, you know what I think about 911? I think they did it. Knowing I shouldn't do this.
No.
If I was ever going to plan one that big, I would know what's coming next. You know. Then you have plan B. We ain't seen plan B. That anthrax, you know, that wasn't them. You know.
Who was it? Who
It was
it?
them.
It was them.
Yeah.
That's deep. The other them.
The other them, yeah. Not the them they chasing.
Mm-hmm.
Them is chasing them.
Them is chasing them. That's right.
I was invited to come to Berlin to talk about my experience. I had a most unfortunate experience because I asked one basic legitimate question about September 11th and what the Bush administration knew and when it knew it. And as a result of that, I was targeted by various forces for defeat, and the plan was executed perfectly, and I came up short on Election Day.
You think we'll ever know what happened? And what's it going to take for us to find that out?
Well, let's see here. I think we're just now about to find out the full extent of the international involvement in the murder of Patrice Lumumba. We don't yet know the full extent of the murder of John F. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the United States. So with so much unfinished business, I suspect that 911 will remain unfinished for a long time as well.
See, in a world that I would envision, I would like to come home from school at 3 o'clock and turn on the box and see Angela Davis on the television. Or somebody intelligent, or somebody that thinks for themselves. And that's never been at a premium in our country. We've always been a group thing, much like the Germans. If you take any of these creatures and isolate them, they're quite harmless. The men don't even know how to approach women. They want to be in the back of a dark corner looking at tits with red lights on them. But when it comes down to communicating one-on-one with a woman, they run and they hide. But you get them together, and you get a lot of beer in them, and you define an enemy for them, and they'll take you right to hell. It's great. And I see a lot of that happening in America. Ich glaube, wir sind der neue Nationalsozialismus. And when you think of all the punk-ass Tenoran dictators, Pinochet, Manuel Noriega, that we've supported, aided, and abetted throughout the last century, I don't think America wants to know about that. I think we really want to feel like we're the good guys. We're the good guys. I don't know if we ever were. Rumsfeld claims that he thinks a small-scale nuclear thing wouldn't be out of the question. I remember as a boy having to duck under my seat, and they drew the shade because the Russians could be coming at any minute, as if ducking and covering under your little seat would be much protection. But I had to follow the drill. I had to follow a lot of drills. I had to affirm that I was living in one nation under God with liberty and justice for all. One nation, indivisible. Well, I think it's one motherfucking nation, invisible, with liberty and justice for those that can well afford it. Peace and love. One world, one people. Peace on earth, goodwill towards men. With any luck at all, we'll have a little bit of a world left.
Okay. Thank you for your information. Remain on your feet. Too many units on the air. Operations 100. Too many units. Go ahead.
What's driving everything is the fact that the world is running out of energy, and people are starting to die now as a result of that fact. And this is a scramble that's only going to produce progressively more chaos as time goes by. More war, more death, more suffering.
Right now we're here in Berlin, and in Berlin the city government says they're bankrupt. A lot of major metropoles across the country and the industrial heartlands of the world are claiming bankruptcy. How do you factor that into the prospects for the future?
Well, I've seen a number of reports from really high-level economic thinkers, the people who pull the strings for that the rest of us dance to, who say that, well, that's a good thing, because as countries go into recession, as people get laid off from work, as governments fail, people buy less gasoline, so there's less demand for energy, so you're automatically reducing the demand for energy, and that's the way they think. But some of this is really out of control. I think it is extremely important for everyone to start getting individual solutions for their own residences, their own towns, their own localities, to start looking at alternative energy sources. This is just the beginning of all kinds of entities going bankrupt. I mean, when you have a guy like Matthew Simmons, the world's largest energy investment banker, whose clients include the World Bank, Kerr McGee, Halliburton, saying that future growth is not possible, he has just spelled a death sentence for capitalism as we know it, unless something very drastic happens, which would be on the order of 4 billion people suddenly dying. And I'm not ruling that out either.
Are we in economic and political meltdown?
It's begun, yes, as a result of the energy meltdown. And that's what's driving everything since 9/11 and before 9/11. That's why 9/11 was allowed to happen.
My last question, what's your message to the soldiers and also to the Iraqi people and other people who are the victims of American tyranny? What's your message to these people?
I'm starting a new Veterans Advisor page on my website at FromTheWilderness.com with Stan Goff, a retired Master Sergeant from US Army Special Forces, who's a brilliant writer, very good friend, and former Captain John McCarthy, 5th Special Forces, Vietnam, to address veterans' issues. We are creating a whole new generation of broken young men and women who are going to be abused, treated like government property under the Ferris Doctrine, which means that they basically have no rights. This is just beginning. Their disillusionment is just beginning. The illnesses from depleted uranium is just beginning. I'm hearing stories now that I haven't confirmed yet of desertions in the theater of operations, soldiers not wanting to fight, large numbers of AWOLs, and this is truly just the beginning. It may well lead back to a draft, and when we have a draft again, the fabric of America will be ripped apart. And looking at it from the highest geopolitical objective, when the American empire is perceived as weak, then the world is really going into chaos. But I think it's going to have to go there before something better can emerge out of human nature that reaches all around the globe. To every one of the guys who's out there, I was a policeman. I've been in shootings, and I was shot once even before I became a policeman. I've been injured, so I have some feel for what it's like to risk your life. But I joke with guys like Stan Goffman, said I did that when I was young and stupid. And I feel sorry for the young and stupid guys, and that means that I love them, because I was there once, you know, and I believed, and I had the pain of my awakening, that I hope all of their awakenings are very quick, because we have to stop this madness, and we have to stop it as quickly as possible.
The world's in serious shit, man. And you are responsible. I don't ever want my boys to go to war. I never want to go to war myself. Every woman who sees this, you know, who sees me talking, every mother, every woman who can't have children, every woman in position of power, every woman in position of non-power, which most of us are. I think that we have to stop sleeping, yeah? Because it's our children. You know, it's the men who are out there fighting now are somebody's kids. The capitalist ideals, you know, a market, a materialist world, yeah, that worries only about how much, how soon, how much more, how can I want, I need. Yeah, it's like instinct gone wild. The thing is that if we can find enough sympathy in our hearts for veterans of war, for people who have been injured, killed, maimed, whatever, who have to, especially the ones who have to live with it afterwards, if we can find enough sympathy in our hearts, and oh God, you know, that's so terrible. Why can't we find enough of the same kind of passionate energy? And I'm talking because it's really a passionate thing, you know, when you get goosebumps and your heart, you know, goes out to somebody who's lost a limb or lost their sight. You know, why can't we be proactive, you know, about this sort of stuff and think about, well, what can happen in war? And with the same amount of passion say, well, wait a second, let's look for solutions. There's just not enough people out there doing things. There's not enough movements. There's not enough people with higher profiles speaking out loudly. I guess the media prevents a lot of it. There's not enough underground activity. When I say underground, I mean like, you know, and I'm putting myself right on the line. But I mean, there's got to be a little bit more information for everybody. People have to be educated. We know we have to start educating people. Children should be educated about what war does. They should be educated in such a way that in a school that small groups of children who are victims of war and the crimes that accompany war and the catastrophe. I mean, they should be exposed to those children who have suffered, yeah? Because that's their level. You know, children who only have one arm, children who are burnt from head to toe, who have suffered chemical burns or whatever it might be. I mean, and I know that it's brutal, and you think, oh, protect the kids, but, and I'm speaking specifically about war, but more generally about all of the issues surrounding this whole society that has to rape, burn, plunder in order to get what it needs to give the people what they pay for, yeah, to generate capital and all the rest of it. I sure hope that 2004 has a few seeds that get planted, you know, groups, organizations, forums for discussion. I hope that people start coming out of their shock after September the 11th and realizing that there's an absolute necessity for discussion and education and prevention eventually, yeah? But it's a long way. It's a long way. It's been really nice having you here. It's been wonderful being interviewed by you because, just really quickly now, it's given me something to think about for the coming year. And, yeah, stuff that we like to ignore and shove away, pretend it's not really happening. Hopefully, shit'll happen. Thanks.
Down with the world.